I'm really excited to be here with Thomas Detzner from Microsoft, and we're going to be asking him lots of questions on global secure access, or in fact, as it's also called, Microsoft Entra, Internet Access, and Microsoft Entra, Private Access. I've been asked a lot of questions through LinkedIn. In fact, I did a few posts, but didn't get much questions. They got a lot of comments in terms of ticks and likes, but no questions on that, or maybe just one, which I'm going to ask. But I've also had questions through direct messages in LinkedIn. I've also had questions through my YouTube channel, Twitter, or as we now call it, X, and also directly from customers. So lots of questions to ask. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the bell. And of course, if you like this session, give it a thumbs up. But first of all, let me say hello to Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Would you like to give us a little bit of an intro?
Absolutely. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you, John. So yeah, a couple of words about me. I'm with Microsoft for some time now, been around for I think 20 plus years, done various roles, started originally in networking actually. So Windows networking was my first role at Microsoft or support there. Then joined the ISA TMG team, which some of you on our viewers and listeners may recall as product lines. Then spent some time as a consultant living in Switzerland, actually. So I spent some time in Switzerland, and then I spent a good 5 years in security, done a lot of compromise recovery work. And then in 2018, I believe, I joined the product group or identity engineering team, and now part of that. And since a year and a half, pretty much, I'm a part of the Microsoft SSE or Secure Service Edge solution. And yeah, glad to talk to you today, John.
Well, that's great. I'm really pleased to have you here. It's always interesting to know how these sort of developments in Microsoft start. Who first thought of the idea, and how, when was it thought of, and how has it progressed? Can you give us a little bit of background on the actual project itself?
Oh, that's a great question. I honestly have to say I wasn't particularly personally involved, but I know a few people have been. I believe, and don't quote me on that, please. A few people around, like the product engineering team, like Sinead O'Donovan, Yahir Tor, Alex Azibov, had the idea of bringing together networking and identity much closer together. And as a funny side story, maybe like some of us joking that we actually took the products that I just mentioned, TMG and UHG, and put it into the cloud and like scaled it up as a cloud service. So which is just like a joke, but as any joke, there is maybe some truth to that.
So it's as simple as that, just taking TMG and pushing it into the cloud.
Or some part of UHG. So
I think that's, yes, there's an element of joking in that, I think, probably. Okay, so let's get straight into the questions. And this is a question I always completely avoid answering. It's about licensing. So can you tell us a little bit about licensing for global secure access, or the two major components of global secure access?
Yeah, I'm with you, John. I also, like, whenever we come to licensing discussion, I always typically refer to the account team. But since you asked, like, so let me try to take a crack on it. So most of the details are still under discussion. So we'll share all the full details when we reach general availability. So please stay tuned for more details. What we can share at this point in time is, the current thinking process. So you can think of it, or you can expect from us that it will very likely be a per user per month type of model, like similar to other, licensing models that we have. And the M365 traffic acquisition pieces will very likely be in the E3 or E5 licensing model. whereas the Entra Internet Access and Entra Private Access component may land in a separate SKU, premium type of SKU. But again, more details we will share as we progress, and at GA we'll certainly share all the details. So please watch the news and yeah, follow John and myself on LinkedIn. You will see the announcements as soon as we have it.
Okay, well that's actually quite clear for licensing, I think, because sometimes you get the most strange answers about licensing. So thanks for that. Now, one of the things with private access at the moment, it supports TCP. But at the moment, UDP is missing. Can you give us any idea of timeline for UDP being available?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. And yeah, UDP is something we know it's currently a gap in the service, and we're working on it as we speak right now. The current plan is to have it available this quarter, latest next quarter.
Okay. And is that a Microsoft quarter or is that a calendar quarter?
That's a great question. So we align our quarters, so the Microsoft quarters, to the calendar quarters, but our fiscal year starts on July 1st. So for us, Microsoft world, we're in Q1. So technically, the quarter ends on September 30th. So hopefully, by September 30th, we'll have it. Again, there may be some slight changes, but yeah, expect it to be coming very soon.
Okay, so actually, I've just thought maybe for some viewers, maybe they don't understand the product is currently in public preview, and it just went into public preview at the beginning of July, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah, July 11th.
And yeah. So it will go through public preview. Feedback will come in. Features will be added. It's a very standard process for, well, I was going to say for Azure, but of course for Entra now. An Entra ID, and so it's working towards bringing in new features as it moves towards GA. Okay, so the next thing is the do you have a timeline for when these new features and what new features will be released, or is that all very much under non-disclosure agreement at the moment?
So as you touched on, John, you gave a really good description. So we just shipped several parts as public preview, and as with any other services under the Entra brand, formerly known as Azure AD, we'll ship them gradually. So expect more of that to become in the next weeks and months. And as you also said, so the exact details are on the non-disclosure agreement. But yeah, please again, watch the news coming from us, like either myself or the engineering team, and John, you will probably also share that as soon as we release more goodness. But there's a great pipeline of capabilities coming up. One of that, the Entra Internet Access, namely. So, but yeah, watch the news. We'll share a lot more exciting capabilities in the next couple of months.
Okay, I like the idea of that, of more goodness being added to what is quite a major change, actually. I think the ability to have the secure service edge and bring in all these features, I think is well, it's a great piece of work, and yeah, let's look out for more goodness as it comes along. So one of the questions I got is the private access is using a proxy connector, which is basically the same as the app proxy connector, but can you use the one connector to do private access and also to do things that you would be doing with the app proxy through the same endpoint?
Right. So not at the moment. So currently, you would need to have both. So and it's also fully supported to have both running in coexistence in your configuration. Longer term, you can expect those two, be merging together, and that there will be a need only to have one connector, the Entra Private Access connector. But yeah, as of now, as of today, you will have to have two, one for your classic app proxy application publishing, and the other for Entra Private Access publishing.
Okay, so if I'm in the portal, I will go to the, well, Entra ID at proxy to deploy the current version, and I go to the global secure access section of the portal to deploy your connector for GSA.
That's a great point. Yeah, exactly. So thanks for calling that out. So absolutely. So you need to make sure, like, there are currently two different versions of it. And depending on what capabilities you wanted to enable as of today, you want to make sure that you download the correct version. So for the private access one, exactly as you called out, go to the Entra admin portal, go to the global secure access blade, and then under the private access configuration and download the connector from there, versus the app proxy one in the classic app proxy blade that you're familiar with. Yeah. Good call.
There'll be a single connector in the future, but at the moment, just to be absolutely clear, can we run both connectors on the same server?
On the same server, I think the answer is no. You would need to have two server instances, so two virtual machines, for example, for the different connectors. Yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Next question is the idea of the private access is that we can come down to on-premises apps and so on, and also go into other clouds. So it's going to have at some point multi-cloud support. So how do I support a connector into AWS, for instance?
Yeah, great question. And indeed, a scenario that we hear from many enterprise customers. And you would do that today if, similar as you would do in Azure, you would deploy a virtual machine, virtual server machine, Windows Server, install the connector as we just discussed, and do essentially the same in Azure or GCP or whatever your cloud provider is, and make sure that this network connectivity is there, the connector can reach the Azure cloud, and then you're good to go. So really deploy a virtual machine instance close to your workloads for your most favorite cloud provider that you need to cover.
I think that answers that one. And of course, we can do that on any virtual machine in any cloud. We can use that connector at this point in time.
Right. So yeah, so going forward, and if people are interested to learn more about that, we also have more work and goodness in the pipeline, as mentioned. Also specifically to the connector capabilities. Like if your company and if you have a scenario like this as of today, feel free to reach out to me and my team. And if your company has an NDA agreement with us in place, we can certainly share more details and discuss your specific needs. Because we'll have some interesting capabilities in the pipeline that will make things even easier going forward.
Okay, well that's great. And if they want to reach out to you, the best way to do that is probably to put a comment under the video, and then I can put you in touch with the right people, maybe directly with Thomas.
Yeah, no, totally. Please leave a comment.
So an interesting one that comes up is multi-user, multi-session AVD, or Azure Virtual Desktop. Now, do you want to just talk a little bit about what is an Azure Virtual Desktop before you answer that question as to whether that's supported?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me see if I can give you like a 1 minute pitch of what Azure Virtual Desktop is. So some of you may be familiar with the VDI, or Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, which is very popular in many enterprise environments. So think of it as a virtual desktop environment where you, similar as a RDP type of desktop, to connect to, and then you have applications published on those virtual desktops, and it's a rather lightweight way to connect to, and you have like a central instance of those virtual desktop infrastructure machines, and same as Azure or AVD is a similar concept. There is a virtual desktops managed by Microsoft in the Azure cloud. But it's actually, in terms of coming back to do we support that in Entra private access or internet access? And the answer is yes, we're looking into that. As of today, the support is not there, but it's something we heard from many enterprise customers. And as such, we will definitely look into that. I can't share, unfortunately, any timelines just yet. Because we have a platform dependency to that. And once that is solved, you can expect us to also build on top of that. So again, like stay tuned for the news and updates to become further down the road.
Okay, thanks. So lots of more goodness, as you say.
Indeed so, yeah, indeed so.
So another comment I've had is that with private access, when connecting to some resources, some of them seem to authenticate with NTLM and some of them seem to authenticate with Kerberos. Can you shed any light on that?
Yeah, so no, great question again. So this is we do respect the authentication protocol that the application protocol is using. So for example, think of it when you access an SMB share, typically what will happen is a Kerberos authentication request needs to happen, and we'll do the classic Kerberos authentication dance like a TGT, TGS, and get that to a client so you can seamlessly access that. Or other protocols, as I touched on, will use NTLM. So the solution does respect the authentication protocol that is carried in the application protocol request.
Okay, so actually, I mean, the flows for that are quite complicated, aren't they? And I think future videos call for. So
that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that, because as I said, like we need to have we need to lay the foundation of how Kerberos, like Azure AD Kerberos, for example, works, or Entra AD Kerberos, I should say, and exactly like as I mentioned, like how is the flow, like how does the client get the ticket, like how is the tunneling then working? So no, great idea. Let's do that. Let's plan for a future video, and people maybe put a comment in below, like if you like to have such a video, to give us a sense of that, if that's like such a deep dive is actually interesting for you. Would love to.
Actually, that's a great idea. So if you want to leave a comment about any deep dives that you would like to see, yeah, it would be really help us decide what to do next. With the ordinary application proxy, we've been able to do Kerberos constrained delegation. At the moment, there's no support on that with your new connector. Is that something that might come along in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's also something we're looking into. And as you already said, in the app proxy connector, you can do that as of today. So you can do KCD configuration. We will be, as mentioned a bit earlier, we'll be merging the two together so that you only have one. And as part of that work, you can also expect also the Kerberos authentication work to be, be supported for any other protocols. But yeah, that's work in progress. And yeah, no, unfortunately, I can't share any concrete timelines when exactly we will have that capability. But we're working on it, and we're aware that this is an ask that many of our customers need.
Okay, well, that's great to know it's coming along. And then I've had a number of questions about how the private DNS and the private IP addresses work when you've got, a client, a GSA client, because, I've got a private on-premise fully qualified domain name. Right. And yet I can go to my GSA client that knows absolutely nothing about that private DNS space. And I can go to that fully qualified domain name and it works. Or I can go to a 10.0.0.7 IP address, which is private to my infrastructure, and it works. How does that happen?
Yeah, no, great. So let's take it a little bit apart. So the starting point is, like, technically speaking, like fully private DNS name resolution we don't support as of today just yet. That's again something we're working on. And also alongside that, one of the asks that we heard from many regulated customers is, give us a control affording to a specific DNS infrastructure that we own. So that's also something you can expect from us coming in the future, like the capability to define where name resolution actually taking place. But to your point, exactly, like as of today, you publish a server that your client doesn't know anything about, or an IP address. How does it work? And the key thing here to understand is traffic acquisition profiling. So the moment when you configure that in the portal, that will land in the private access configuration traffic acquisition profile. which will then, send to the client, and then your client knows, oh, if I go to, app server 1, the client will do a DNS name lookup, but will get, probably a name does not exist answer from your local DNS server back. And then what we'll do is we will, because we have that name in the traffic acquisition profile, or the IP address, it could also be just the IP address in the profile, we will acquire the traffic. And for the FQDN specifically, we will then assign an IP address from what we call the synthetic IP address range. Again, like if people are interested to learn more about that, please leave a comment in the section below, and we can certainly have a deep dive video about exactly traffic profile, how that works, how is the the flow happening. Yeah, totally, we can talk about that. But I hope high level, did that make sense, like as an explanation?
Yeah, I think so. So effectively, it's because the traffic profile has identified that this private IP, this private fully qualified domain name exists. It's effectively existing at the end of a connector space, isn't it? So it knows to route the traffic appropriately. But I mean, I think if we went through the whole, a little bit more about how the whole thing works, it would be, well, it's certainly interesting to me. I hope it will be interesting to other people as well. So yes, let's do something along that line. Yeah. So again, comments, please. And then I think probably we've sort of reached the end of our time almost, but as a sort of final question is SASE, as in software-defined WANs. I mean, where does that fit in? Does it fit in or?
No, it does absolutely fit in, and we looked at it, and we have SD-WAN support on our roadmap. However, to be transparent, also it's further down, more in a future roadmap. Right now, you can do SD-WAN with Azure, for example, Azure Networking. Azure Networking does have support of SD-WAN or third-party vendors. So we haven't integrated that yet in the existing SSE solution, but longer term, definitely is something we're looking into to add support for a full, as you said, fully SASE solution. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's great. So, well, thank you very much, Thomas, for all your answers and been really useful. What would be, again, very useful for us is, number one, was it a useful session? Should we do more of them? And please, again, comments, don't forget the thumbs up. And well, we'll see you next time in the cloud. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for watching my channel. Subscribe for more free training. You might like to join me for my Identity Masterclass. Hopefully, see you soon.